I'm Aidan Healy.
And today we are going to be discussing King's Landing and its future, possible future, and its definite past in A Song of Ice and Fire. So, much to discuss for King's Landing. Thought I'd get a bit of note-taking here, and I guess we can start by summarizing what's happened so far.
Okay.
Cersei Lannister, in all of her ingenuity, she has kind of just destroyed everything in A Feast for Crows that was being worked on to ensure peace. For one thing, there's the entire issue with the Faith Militant. To put it in a shorter story, the crown owed almost 1 million dragons to the Faith of the Seven, and the Faith needs to bless the reigning king for their rule to be seen as more legitimate in the eyes of the common people. And the Faith was threatening not to bless King Tommen because of the debt they were owed. And so Cersei struck up a brilliant deal in which she decided that the debt would be forgiven and Tommen would be blessed by the Seven if she allowed the Faith Militant to reform again. And I don't know if Cersei didn't know about the Faith Militant's history, or if she
didn't really think through.
But it seems like she doesn't know about that history. Well, we can go over that. Right at the beginning of the Targaryen dynasty, the Faith Militant caused all sorts of problems for the second Targaryen king. And his hand, and later the reigning king, Maegor, also known as Maegor the Cruel, brutally suppressed the Faith Militant, calling for, I think, like a dragon for the scalp of any warrior's son, etc. So that was just a huge mess, and it was a huge problem for the Targaryen dynasty. And also the fact that, it'd be one thing if the Faith Militant could cause trouble for the current crown, which they very well might, but if they were able to cause trouble for the Targaryen dynasty with dragons, then they are capable of a lot of damage. And she also had Sir Osney Kettleblack kill the previous High Septon, because Tyrion had appointed that High Septon, and she was getting really paranoid about Tyrion endangering her and her children. And we can go ahead and talk about the prophecies for Cersei.
Okay.
These are prophecies that Maggie the Frog made for Cersei when Cersei was a little girl. The gist of the prophecies are that Maggie was saying, "Queen you shall be until another, younger and more beautiful, comes by to take all that you hold dear from you." And Maggie the Frog also prophesied that Cersei would outlive all of her children, and that the Valancourt would strangle her at the end. And the Valancourt is High Valyrian for little brother.
Yes. I think the first part of that prophecy, there's two very obvious people who that could be referring to, either Marjorie Tyrell or Daenerys.
Marjorie Tyrell, who Cersei thinks it is, or possibly Daenerys Targaryen.
I think if it does turn out to be, the prophecy does turn out to be true, it's probably going to be Daenerys, in my opinion. Because I feel like Cersei is so paranoid at this point. Her suspicions are being misdirected. I don't feel like Marjorie Tyrell is that big of a player.
If we think Maggie the Frog's prophecy is all going to be true, it says that she will outlive all of her children. She's outlived Joffrey, thank God. If that's going to be true, then how are Myrcella and Tommen going to die before her? How do you think that would happen?
Well, Myrcella's already been attacked in an attempt made on her
by
life.
Geraldine,
or Dark Star.
And interesting character. Definitely.
Yes. And so I wouldn't say it's unforeseeable to see her being killed at the hands of a Dornish man, or someone in Dorne, or someone affiliated with Dorne. And
for Darkstar, it seems like Darkstar, with the attempt on Myrcella's life, it seems like Darkstar wanted to cause animosity between the Lannisters and the Martells. Why he wanted that, I don't know. But yeah, he's a very interesting character, one that we don't know much about. Maybe she could just get killed somewhere in Dorne on the way somewhere. She's supposed to still marry Trystane Martell, but maybe something crazy will happen. And then for King Tommen, he's basically a puppet for the small council right now. He could, there's a number of ways that he could end up dying. And then
one thing I could see happening for him is Varys somehow orchestrating his death once the Targaryens set foot in Westeros.
Yeah, that's another big part of this King's Landing discussion is Varys, and the three main houses in the picture of King's Landing right now are Tyrell, Lannister, and maybe Targaryen. But But yeah, maybe Varys will orchestrate the death, or maybe he won't even need to. Maybe he'll just end up getting killed by the chaos that Varys is creating. But then the last part of Maggie the Frog's prophecy is that she'll be strangled by the Valancourt, or little brother. A lot of people think that that could be Tyrion, but Tyrion is trying to meet Daenerys again. Like, because Tyrion briefly saw Daenerys in the tournament, you know, in Meereen. He's trying to get back to her through the sellsword companies. So I think, you know, if Tyrion were to end up strangling Cersei, that'd be a long way off, I think.
Yeah.
But there are some people who think that the Valancourt could be referring to Sandor Clegane.
I'm still not completely sold on the idea that he's still alive.
He was last seen for sure in an Arya chapter, because Sandor Clegane and Arya got to that awesome fight in the end at the crossroads.
Yeah.
And Sandor was wounded, and Arya basically left him in the woods to die at the Trident. You know, in the Brienne storyline in A Feast for Crows, she goes to the Quiet Isle, which is like a 5th to 7th monastery, and she talks to this elder brother guy, and he's talking about Sandor Clegane. He's saying that he personally buried Sandor Clegane.
Yeah.
And that, here's the interesting thing though, he talks a lot about Sandor Clegane, saying this was a man who lived off of his hatred for his older brother. He had a very tormented life. And it's interesting that he has all this insight about Sandor Clegane's personality if he just met him as he was dying. Yeah. So, some people think that the elder brother is referring metaphorically to the death of Sandor Clegane, that the evil one who died, he's a new man. But also there's, as Brienne is leaving the Quiet Isle, she sees this huge gravedigger guy, like one of the men working there. He's huge, he's bigger than Brienne, and he's got a recovering wound similar to the one the Hound received at the end of the crossroads, and he's wearing like a hood like all the other people there, so you wouldn't see his facial burns, and he even bends down to pet a dog. So that sounds like Sandor Clegane.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still a little skeptical that
it's possible that's not him.
It would fit in with George R. R. Martin's MO.
Yeah. It could just be George R. teasing us though. With
exactly. See, like
that's screwing with us.
I know.
But Sandor Clegane is one of my favorite characters. I hope he's not dead. Some people think that Sandor Clegane is going to be the Valancourt in this prophecy because he's the little brother. Yeah. But him going so far to strangle Cersei, I don't know. He doesn't give a shit. Like he doesn't care about the throne.
And especially if he's become a different man. Yeah. It's even less likely.
But the only link there is that Sandor Clegane. Okay, we go to Robert Strong with Sandor Clegane now. Cersei faces a trial by combat with the Faith of the Seven, and her champion is a knight known as Sir Robert Strong, who seems
like shit and doesn't eat.
Yeah,
doesn't talk. Doesn't take off his armor.
Yeah, this seems like it's obviously a Frankenstein version of Gregor Clegane
or Iron Man.
I mean, we see in the Storm of Swords, and I guess probably in Feast for Crows, you know, after the Red Viper fight, which I look forward to that in season 4. It's gonna be super awesome. But after that, you know, people hear Gregor Clegane screaming in Qyburn's chambers in the Red Keep. Qyburn's a sketchy, interesting character. He's rumored to know black magic and necromancy. He's obviously, I think, reanimated Gregor Clegane's corpse as Sir Robert Strong.
I don't. Yeah, it could be anyone else. Like it could. I can't even possibly imagine what else Sir Robert Strong would be.
Qyburn even ordered a huge set of armor for no reason, and he was telling Cersei, "I'm making the ultimate fighting champion for you." So, anyways. The idea, this is a kind of a vague idea that I've seen and that I've kind of thought of, is that Sandor Clegane would hear somehow about Robert Strong and take the opportunity to finally kill his older brother and go be the Faith's champion against Robert Strong in the trial by combat. And then maybe strangle Cersei. But all of that seems so far off.
Maybe, and after once he's done with that, maybe, if he has time, strangle Cersei.
Yeah, and then after that, maybe he'll become a dragon. So, I'm not just, that's a possibility. I don't think that I'll see that happening, though. Now we're going to talk about the Faith Militant, comprised of the warrior sons, who are basically knights who have renounced their lands and titles and fight to protect Faith of Seven. And then, I can't remember the name of the other faction, but they're basically the more poorer branch of people. The Sparrows, they're called. But the interesting thing about the Faith Militant being revised is they have legitimate power and sway over King's Landing because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, the small council comprised of Tyrells and the Lannisters, they have to consider for the first time, like,
this new
the faith has to be okay with what we do.
Yeah.
You know, like they're a factor now. Well, first of all, Varys wants to get the Lannisters and Tyrells to go at it, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's almost no question.
And that's inevitable, I feel like.
And
it's gonna happen.
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. And I think that if and when Aegon VI lands in King's Landing, the Faith Militant are going to back him and just try to get
Are
him
they
to
though?
go.
Because they have that whole history with the Targaryens.
Well, see, the Targaryens, before Aegon the Conqueror even became king of Westeros, in order to make peace and have more of a smooth rule, he went to Old Town and he embraced the Faith of the Seven for the Targaryen dynasty. So it's like the Faith of the Seven. I think my memory's a bit shady here. I think that they were just having problems with famine and poverty, and you know that's kind of why they were creating trouble. They didn't necessarily have a problem with Targaryen rule, as it were. And we can briefly mention Marjorie Tyrell. You know, she was given the option of a trial by the faith or a trial by combat. She chose trial by faith because it looks like she's going to get away okay. The faith more or less knows that she's innocent. Now we can get to Varys, which is, he's one of my favorite characters too. So, after Tyrion Lannister escapes, after Varys helps Tyrion Lannister escape the chambers of the Red Keep, Varys probably left an old Tyrell coin of an old Tyrell king. And, of course, Qyburn found this and told Cersei, hey, look, there's a Tyrell coin where your brother escaped. So Cersei's like, oh, the Tyrells must be responsible for this.
It's such an obvious...
It's such an obvious setup.
I know, but of course Cersei's just so fucking stupid. she immediately jumps on it.
Or maybe Qyburn even. Because Qyburn's the one who found the coin, I'm pretty sure, and showed it to Cersei. I don't really know if Qyburn has that much of a political agenda outside of himself. Like, I think he wants to have, like, a position of, like, research, and he can experiment all he wants and stuff.
Yeah, he's like a weird, like Joseph Menegli, weird. He's like dark. He doesn't give a shit about the politics.
Yeah.
He just wants to do his creepy experiments.
He cares about the politics that will affect his mad scientist position more or less, I would say. There's the possibility that in the aftermath of the epilogue chapter of A Dance with Dragons, that another Tyrell coin would be left there, but I feel like that'd be so obvious.
I don't think that,
At the deaths of Kevin and Pycelle, with a Tyrell coin there, it would be so obvious. But I think one way or another, Cersei's going to think the Tyrells were responsible for that. There's also the factor that Mace Tyrell and Randall Tarley both have their armies in King's Landing, and the Lannister standing army is in the Riverlands of Jaime. The small council in that epilogue chapter, though, they agreed that if that is John Cunnington that's landed at Storm's End, they think that he might be an imposter too, like some sellsword who took a dead man's name. But the small council agreed that they have to kill Cunnington the Pretender unless Daenerys was going to join them, because that'd be big trouble. And they also agreed that they want Robert Strong to win the trial by combat because Cersei is their link. It's both the Lannisters and the Tyrells linked to the Iron Throne.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see if he doesn't win, if something does play out with like Sandor Clegane or whoever does. If somehow he does not win, if they would intervene in some way, and if they did,
to Tyrells,
to prevent Cersei from being killed.
Yeah, but if they did that though, then the faith is going to just.
But see, like that, I feel like that's the kind of thing that's going to start happening in this book. Is it's just
chaos.
Eventually, it's just going to start, and there's going to eventually, like, it's going to happen. There's going to be that all this tension that's been building is going to eventually spill over, and they're just not going to. And if she is their only link to the throne, would they allow her to just die if she loses this arbitrary trial by combat?
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
not. That's
I don't know, and that could be the spilling point or tipping point or whatever.
I think it very well
might be. They find that clash sort of finally breaks out, and all the conflict and chaos that's been running rampant in Westeros finally hits crashing down, hits King's Landing.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think that might happen.
It would not be unimaginable that in that kind of a situation, that's when Tommen would get killed.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
By whatever
Tommen's already
faction.
in danger in one way or another, even if the Tyrells and Lannisters both want him alive right now. But for Varys, though, we can just kind of talk about what he wants. Varys is Varys, and so almost everything
varies.
very varies. It varies. But you can never fully, I guess, trust what he says. However, I think that he truly does want peace and stability. And the reason I think this is because, when he was talking to Ned Stark, he was, kind of getting on Ned Stark, like, why did you do this? You brought war upon the realm. He's saying, I want peace and order no matter what. I don't care who ends up ruling. And he was saying the same thing more or less to Kevin, too. And it's like, why would he lie to someone he was right about to kill, or that he knew was going to die? That very said to Kevin how Aegon VI has grown up to know what it's like to be hungry, and he can work with his hands and fish and feed himself. Tyrion remarks that Aegon VI is more educated than half the lords in Westeros, and Varys is saying that this is going to be like the perfect king, that he's going to know that ruling is his duty rather than his right. Why is Varys so loyal to the Targaryens? Like, why didn't Varys raise some other, like maybe a Lannister or Tyrell ideal king? Like, what is his connection? Why does he love the Targaryens so much?
It could just be purely pragmatic choices because
the
Targaryens have the best claim to the throne.
Yeah.
They've ruled Westeros for however many thousands of years, and so he thinks perhaps he's backing the Targaryens because they're just more likely to be able to hold on to a claim to the throne.
I don't even recall any history of Varys and Rhaegar. Like, I feel like Varys would have loved and admired Rhaegar. Just like Varys admired Ned Stark. He admires the good people like Kevin. But, I don't know of any conversations they've ever had or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just pure pragmatism.
Yeah, I think it's the pragmatism behind his idea of peace. Just get a Targaryen on the throne, a male Targaryen. If Varys succeeded in getting the Lannisters and Tyrells to fight each other, and Aegon VI just swarmed in victoriously, backed by the Faith of the Seven, the Faith Militant, if he ideally just became king, what do you think a crowned Aegon VI would do about the chaos in Westeros? Like, how do you think he would deal with the Wall and with Roose versus Stannis in Winterfell? How do you think he would deal with the Ironborn? Like, what do you think he would do?
Gosh, I don't know. It's
a big discussion.
It's such a. There's just so much wrong with the Seven Kingdoms right now. It would be so hard to start trying to put things back together.
It's like, where would their money come from? Like, they would have to a typical peace method would be to say, bend the knee to me as Aegon VI Targaryen, and you'll be allowed to keep these titles. You'll keep it. They would need money and armies to support them, which they could have with the Faith Militant and the Golden Company, and whatever's left of the Tyrell and Lannister armies. But what would he do though? Because he's still, even if he's been raised really well, as far as we know, he's still just 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
I guess one last thing would be Aegon VI's legitimacy. Some people think he's a Blackfire pretender. Some people think he's just some kid that has been brought up by John Cunnington. Some people think John Cunnington is also an imposter, sells sword of a dead man's name. There is evidence that this might not be Aegon VI, but it's got to be him. It's such a cool plot twist.
I know,
it's gotta be him.
It's just with all the build up that has gone into creating this character, and it just turns out to be some dude who's not really anyone.
It'd be so lame. It'd be like a buzz.
I know, it would be terrible. I just feel like that's not going to happen.
It can't. I don't think it would.
I might throw away the book if that happens.
I don't know.
I wouldn't throw it. I wouldn't throw it. That would
I know
be
what you mean, though.
an overreaction, but
yeah, I know what you mean now.
I would put it down for about 10 minutes and be angry.
He seems to have been raised really well. He seems to have a very honest upbringing and kind of a leadership kind of nature to him. But he seems to have a tint of the kind of Targaryen fieriness. Like when Tyrion was playing Savas with him. Which, by the way, I hope that someone makes an actual game of Savas.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, but Tyrion beat him And
if you're watching and you want to make it,
yes, please make it.
Awesome.
But Tyrion beat him in a game of some boss, and Tyrion was like kind of scolding Aegon, like, you shouldn't think this, you should consider this, like talking about the throne or whatever. And Aegon got really, really mad and like scattered the pieces, and he was like, pick all of them up. And he's like screaming at Tyrion. It's like, it's a hint of Aerys and Viserys there. It's like, I don't know. I think that Aegon could very well be a good ruler, but maybe he would be crazy. I'm not saying he's full on crazy, but like
he might become full on crazy.
Maybe he would become full. I mean,
and maybe
Targaryen bloodline.
And maybe Daenerys will come in and end up killing him because she's like the only stable Targaryen. And then, or if she goes crazy too, then that's when Hodor comes in.
Yeah, Hodor. There's always Hodor. He's just waiting.
I think eventually Hodor's going to end up being on the Iron Throne. That's how it's all going to end.
The last word
I hope
will be Hodor. And then everyone Hodor.
And then everyone kneels.
Yeah. And then, of course, there is the prophecy. There are several prophecies. But there was the night that Aegon was conceived, which is interesting because not the night he was born, but the night Aegon was conceived, there was a star, there was a comet seen over King's Landing. And for a time, Rhaegar thought that he was the prince that was promised. I don't know if he always did or if he changed his mind and thought that his alleged son Lyanna and it wasn't the prince that was promised. But Aegon VI could be the prince that was promised, but I feel like if Aegon was this like messianic chosen one figure, that he would have been a bigger part of the series. Like he's going to be an important role to the series, but he's been introduced so late.
Yeah, I feel like that's what makes me think he's not going to be the one that ends up on the Iron Throne in the end.
Well, no, I think he'll very possibly on the Iron Throne. I just don't think he's like the chosen one.
If I had to like make a bet, I would not bet on Aegon being the one that sits on the Iron Throne at the very end when the dust settles. I don't know if I could confidently.
And I think that by the end of the series, though, King's Landing is more or less going to be somehow just destroyed. Like I think that the Red Keep, like I think George Martin is eventually just going to have King's Landing just like get just taken down in some way or another. So like maybe they'll have to make a new capital city or rebuild the Red Keep or something. But I don't think that the Iron Throne is just the Red Keep are just going to be there with people fighting over it the entire time. I think like really catastrophic stuff is going to happen. Like you said, maybe the others are going to ever.
Yeah, I think the others are going to make it down to King's Landing eventually.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen.
That's the only other thing, though. Is I know you mentioned that in our other video for the Wall. It's like if they were going to do that, the others are also being they were introduced in the very, very first chapter of the series. But the others are going to play a big role in Book 6, but that's kind of late too. So if they're just breaking through the Wall, possibly in Book 6, for them to get to King's Landing, that seems so rushed. You know what I mean? Like that's a long way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think they might.
I feel like it would be kind of anticlimactic though if they like they break down the wall and they
throw it back in the north.
and then but they don't really make it very far south.
Yeah, that's true. Like
this entire series has been building up to winter's coming. That was like the whole thing from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like
it's like, oh, winter came, but it really wasn't that spectacular.
Yeah.
And now it's spring again.
It's cozy. Winter's cozy.
It was like, it was a little chilly, but like we got a few days off school.
Yeah,
but
got a few days off school. Yeah, yeah. I think the others are going to do some serious damage. Mm-hmm. As far as going to King's Landing, though, I don't know.
I'll make a bet right now. They will make it to King's Landing.
Perhaps the world
$5
years from now.
$5.
Sure, why not?
All right.
$5.
We have proof
right now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make a video where you have to hand me $5.
Maybe so.
We'll
see. So yeah, I guess we've more or less covered everything. We've covered Cersei and her horribleness, and the Faith of the Seven, the Trial by Combat, Maggie the Frog's prophecies, the Faith Militant, Aegon VI, the chaos with the Tyrells and the Lannisters and Varys, the Small Council, and winter being snowing in King's Landing. I think we've more or less covered the gist of everything. Yeah, that's more or less what there is to talk about for King's Landing.
Yep.
Thanks for watching if you did, and I think we can definitely make another video regarding the Stark children, like with Sansa in more detail, and Arya and Bran. That'll be a very magical discussion.
Yes.
Which that's another reason I love Dance with Dragons, because of how magical it was.
I am not as much of a fan of the magic. But.
It's so awesome though when George Martin does do the magic, like the magic and Bran storyline. I think is super awesome.
We all know that you love Bran.
Yes, I love Bran. And we'll probably make a discussion for the Riverlands, discussing what the heck the Brotherhood of Valbanner is doing, and Lady Stoneheart and all that. What other videos will there be? Marine is going to be a huge one.
Marine.
That'll cover most of the Essos storyline for the series so far. That's more or less what we'll do. I guess we could do one for the Iron Islands, maybe. We could do like a miscellaneous.
We could do a few mini videos.
Like we could do mini videos or a miscellaneous for like Dorne and the Iron Islands. But we'll definitely make some more videos. There's much to talk about. It's a decent series, I guess.
And if there's something you want to see us talk about, then comment.
Yes, feel free to comment. Nothing tickles my pickle more than a good comment discussion. So, we'll make some more videos.
So tickle our pickles.
Yes, be sure to do that. And on that note, we'll see you next time.
That was a good note to end on.
See you later.
Adios.